Marsico and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm overcome with a very interesting idea for a recommendation video. I've seen a lot of people doing specific personalized recommendations on BookTube, but you have to have an active Instagram for that or an active Twitter, and I'm barely active on social media because I avoid drama and also because Instagram is boring for me. So I'm going to put my own twist on those videos, and I'm going to recommend you books based on what a random word generator is going to give me. It might turn into a train wreck and I'll have to cut a lot of footage out of this video because I cannot think so fast with so many books under my belt, but we're going to treat it as a bit of a challenge. I've opened the random word generator and I'm recording my screen. I'm going to choose only nouns and I'm going to go for 5 words. So I'm going to get 5 each time, and I'm going to choose one that appeals the most to me. Let's try it. So let's generate some random words. Okay, I've got negotiation, diamond, procedure, agreement, and employment. This is fun because I immediately have all these books on my mind, but also it's hard because I only have some of them on my shelf. I do read a lot of ebooks and it would have helped to actually see the books. I feel like this girl in the Queen's Gambit. She's the chess player and she was moving figures in her brain. That's how I feel. I think I'm going to go with procedure, and I'm going to recommend you The Night Swim by Megan Goldin. It's about a woman named Rachel who has a very famous true crime podcast. She takes a very controversial rape case to talk about in the 3rd season of the show. She has to attend the courtroom because it is an active case. For the most part, it's a procedural mystery book and it is so well crafted. Procedural mysteries have a reputation of being a bit dense and boring, and this book was never dull. I loved it. So this was fun. Let's generate some more words. Okay. Resolution, passenger, environment, river, and disease. I feel like environment, river, and disease could go together and turn into a very interesting dystopian book. Environment, river, disease. I don't really like dystopians, so I don't have many to offer. Resolution sounds like a good word that can be used for a hate-to-love romance. I actually figured out something better. How about a resolution to a very long-standing crush on someone? I do have a book for that, and this book is Two Rogues Make a Ride by Sebastian. So this is a story about Will and Martin that were childhood friends. Martin was very sickly when they were little because of his lungs, and he didn't have many options in terms of entertainment and spending his time with other people, so for most part he spent his time with Will. When they became older, their path separated. Will got into the Navy due to the efforts of his older brother. They continued to write to each other, but it wasn't the same thing. Will was abused in the Navy and got out of this situation very wounded. He became a regular sailor and got addicted to drugs. Throughout those years, Martin was helping Will with his addiction, which significantly worsened his health. At the start of this book, Will takes Martin away to the country in hopes that Martin is going to get better. And they've had feelings for each other since they were teenagers for a very, very long time. They know each other so well and they're so well suited, but neither of them wants to risk the friendship. And both of them are experiencing the coward boy hour for the longest time in this book. But things thaw and change and they do develop into something more. This book is just so beautiful. Let's try more words. I'm loving this so far. Okay, so the next 5 are going to be difficult. It's manufacturer, explanation, instruction, unit, and user. The only thing that my brain connects to the unit is a wig or a fat cat. So that is not the word we're going to go with. You know what? I actually know a story that can be described with the word manufacturer. It's the Perfume, the Story of a Murder by Patrick Süskind. I love this one. I think I've talked about this one recently too, which I'm sorry for because I feel like I'm repeating myself, but you know, the first rule of advertising is that you have to hear about a thing 3 times to actually pick it up. The Perfume is a very interesting story because it's a classic, but it reads like a very modern thriller/mystery novel. It's about a serial killer that goes around killing women to learn how to preserve their smell. This is a deeply fucked up book, but it is very fascinating. It's objectively a very immersive, very picturesque book, but not picturesque in a pleasant way. I would say that the atmosphere in this book is very unsettling and unpleasant. So let's go for the next 5 words. ℆, relationship. This one is so easy. I think we shouldn't go with relationship because it's just too easy. Piano, reputation, and agency. Agency is a good one. I think I can go with some woman fiction where a woman is trying to find her agency. It's a huge theme of this genre in general. ℆, listen, this one is also really cool. Like a young adult novel where the protagonist works in a mall or spends a lot of time in a mall. I think we as teenagers spent a lot of time in a mall when computers were not this popular and we had nothing to do. I think I'm actually going to go with reputation, and I have quite a few books to recommend. So the first one is Night Film by Mauricio Pessoa. I'm just staring at it. Night Film by Mauricio Pessoa is about a guy that was preparing a case against a very famous movie director and who gets bamboozled into thinking that this guy is a pedophile, but he was tricked all along by this guy's team. And when he presents his evidence and writes about the case, the director's team is able to disprove of every claim and ruin this guy's reputation. Years later, when this same reporter doesn't have much of a career to speak of, the director's daughter ends her life in suicide. And the protagonist immediately is attracted to the case because he feels like this is the moment to get his reputation back. This book is very scary in unexpected ways because the director that this guy is trying to ruin is a director of horror movies, and there are certain elements from his work in this story. It's one of those mystery novels that you think about after for a very long time. But this book was very popular on BookTube at some point, so if you read it, I'm going to give you a couple of more recommendations. The next one, of course, is another favorite classic of mine, which is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I highly recommend Alexandre Dumas to people that don't really like classics or find classics difficult because all his stories are adventure stories full of pretty modern tropes. This one is about betrayal. It's about this guy who loved this woman named Mercedes. They wanted to be together, but there was this other man that wanted to separate them, and he does it by framing the protagonist, putting him in prison, and basically ruining his life. The protagonist spends many years in prison, plotting his revenge. Eventually he gets out of prison, adopts a different name, and systematically takes out all the enemies that made his fall happen. This novel is high stakes, it has everything, it's pretty long, and I feel like that's why people are scared, but I feel like if you start reading it as an ebook, it's going to be easier because you won't see how long it is. Generating the next 5 words, and they are person, too easy, feedback, okay, math. Math is actually very interesting, but I don't remember reading anything about math or characters that are into math. So let's try other words. Music and bath. There is a recommendation that immediately comes to mind with the word music. It is a duology by Victoria Schwab called Monsters of Verity. It is set in a post-dystopian world where 3 types of monsters exist. One of them is kind of like a vampire, the second one is sort of like this dark shadow, and the third one is very much like a person, but they feed with human souls. And to lure out the souls from the human, they have to play musical instruments. So one of the protagonists in this book is actually this kind of demon, and he lives in a human family with some precautions and is trying to be good. So music in this world and series plays a really huge part. 5 more words. Park, breathe, deficiency, accumulation, and serve. Woof. I think we're going to go with serve, and I have to figure out the book. It probably has to be about someone that is in the army or someone that is guarding someone else. For someone who's very into guards as the romantic interest, I am blanking on things that I can recommend. Oh, I know. It's been a while since I read this series. It's a young adult fantasy and it's incredibly underappreciated. And I believe it does have a guard as a love interest. It's the Fire and Thorn series by Ray Carson. Ray Carson had written some more books after this, but I do still feel like this was a jewel that we did not appreciate enough. It's about this girl named Eliza, who's the youngest of 2 sisters and who fulfills a prophecy. Basically in this world there are some people that possess magic and they consider to be chosen by God. The magic is very much tied to religion. And because of this, she gets married into the royal family, to the current reigning king, which is quite a bit older than her. And she doesn't really see him as a romantic interest. Romance is not the only element in this book, but I'm talking specifically about romance because it fits the word. She is developing a relationship with a guy that is supposed to be her guard, but he's also a secret revolutionary. It is full of adventure and drama. The protagonist is very interesting. It's also just a really good book that has a lot of unexpected twists. Some plot points in this hit so hard because it's something that is not usually done in young adult fiction, and the stakes in here are pretty high. Let's go for some more words. Hot dog. We're not choosing this one. Prestige, just like the movie. Video, learn, and negative. Maybe we should go with video, but also, what do I have to recommend that has to do with video, or even like video gaming? I know what to recommend. Perhaps it's a bit of a stretch, but still. I want to recommend Come Girl by Elite Week. It is about a come girl that in the past was an art student and wanted to dedicate her life to it, but got into a car crash that basically ruined her ability to draw. Plus, a person died in this car crash and she feels very guilty because of it. So she accidentally found a new career and started camming. In the present, she builds this relationship with her client that is a little bit inappropriate because she lets him into her life and she doesn't really know who this person is. It's part thriller mystery, part contemporary novel. I want to give you some trigger warnings, but because I do feel like there was some dead naming and misgendering and mentions of violence against trans people. It's been a while though, so I'm not 100% sure, but I just want to give you a blanket warning, just in case. This book is written by a transgender author though, and I do need to check out more of his stuff. I was very gripped by this novel though, and I really like the stylistic choices. Let's go for 2 more rounds and then we're going to wrap it up. The next 5 words are clarify, anniversary, death, locate, and staircase. Death is extremely simple because I can recommend any mystery or thriller, and I feel like that's cheating. Locate and staircase are much more interesting. So Locate would be a book where a person needs to find someone or something. The first thing actually that comes to mind is The Raven Cycle, but I'm not going to recommend you The Raven Cycle because you already know that it exists. I think I found one for Locate. It is a very famous one, but I also feel like people watched the movie but never read the book. And the book is so powerful. It's Wild by Cheryl Strayed. I've read another book by Cheryl Strayed, and she is an incredibly talented memoir writer. She's specifically good at writing about herself. There are some authors that are wonderful at being vulnerable, and I think she's one of them. It's basically her memoir about her hitting the bottom. In this book, she's describing the time of her life when she tried to elevate herself. So I guess in a way it's also a book that could be recommended for the word staircase. She decides to take the Pacific Crest Trail to be with herself and to try to heal herself from all the terrible things that happened to her and all the terrible choices that she made herself. This book made me cry so many times. Short Story books in general make me cry. This book is simultaneously about a singular experience of this woman, but it's also about a universal experience. It's about overcoming grief and abuse and picking herself up. The prose is very beautiful and poignant too. I absolutely love this book. If you've seen the movie and you think you have nothing else to learn from this story, you're wrong, because the book is just different. Another book that I just scrolled past and thought that it's gonna be a good recommendation for like K2, and I don't recommend it often, it's been a while since I recommended it, is a mystery/thriller as well. It's Yesterday by Felicia Yap. It is set in a fictional world where people are separated into two categories. One type has long-term memory, and second type only has short-term memory, so they have to record their diaries at the end of the day so they would be able to function in society. And of course, because some people have more and some people have less, there is the discrepancy between them. But it's not just that. A woman is killed and thrown into the river, and the detective has to figure out who done it in a day, because people are going to forget important details. A lot of characters in this book have to locate their memories. Memories get stolen and rewritten and erased. I feel like it's a good recommendation. There are quite a few interesting plot twists in this. I don't know if everyone is going to enjoy the ending of this, but I found the concept itself so interesting and I was very, very engrossed in the book. One more combo of words and we're going to wrap it up. So, fame, tender, digital, threat, and mild. I know what I'm going to recommend. It's also one of my favorites. Not a lot of people read it. And it is about fame, and it's also about music. I could have recommended it for the music prompt. It is The Air You Breathe, a historical novel about two girls that were raised together on a sugar plantation in Brazil. One of them was an orphan and a servant in the house, and the other one was the daughter of the plantation owner. They both became friends because they were the same age, and they dream of performing music on stage. Eventually they run away from the plantation, and they start from the bottom in Rio de Janeiro, working gigs in shitty bars and performing tasks for the local gang, I think. It is such a vibrant story. The relationship is very complicated too, because they both want to be famous, and while they're friends and occasionally have more than friends feelings for each other, they're also competing in a way. It's a really good book. It's beautifully written. The complexities of these characters and their relationship is elevating it to a different level. I highly recommend it, especially if you love historical fiction. I guess this is it for now. I hope I was able to give you some good mix of recommendations, old and new, and that you enjoyed this concept. Perhaps I'm going to do a part 2. Tell me if you would like me to do it. Perhaps I'm going to do something else with these prompts in the future, because I do already have some ideas. Thank you for watching this video. If you reach this point, you can leave a sunflower emoji, just because it's the first thing that came to my mind. I'll see you with another video soon, but until then,